So I have been using public transit for about 14 years now. I started way back in Minneapolis, the land of Prince and Purple Rain. I've never liked cars. I've always hated them. I can ride in them obviously, but the idea of driving has always terrified me. And then when I was in junior high, my brother was in a really serious car accident where he was in a car with his friends and got T-boned and almost died. So I was like, there's no way I'm ever gonna put myself in a position to do that to someone. So I've just never driven, and I've always lived in really small towns where it didn't matter. You walk everywhere, you get a ride with someone. Then I decided to move to Minneapolis, and it's a slightly bigger city. And I started using public transit because that's how you get places. And literally my first month there, transit went on strike. So I was walking and looking for jobs and walking miles. Then I moved to LA and everyone's like, you cannot survive without a car in LA. You're not gonna be able to get to anything. You're gonna have to learn how to drive. And almost 3 years later, I'm doing okay. I get places. I might not get there on time. I might not get there in one piece, but I get there. So my favorite form of transportation here is the train. I love being on the train. I feel like as somebody that's an aspiring writer, it is the best material. You can't script the stuff that happens. It's the best and the worst of humanity. So basically, when I'm on the train, I'm also eavesdropping. Sometimes I'm literally writing notes or typing things into my phone because you just people don't care. They'll tell anything and they don't realize there's some little weird girl in the corner listening to everything they say. And this particular event happened, I would say it was probably April 2017. I've spent the last year, up until a few months ago, working on Hollywood Boulevard in an escape room, which is an entirely separate show / web series, short film waiting to happen. But if you've ever been to Hollywood Boulevard, you know it is this weird cesspool of humanity. I mean, literally clowns to the left, literal jokers to the right. And then I'm always stuck in the middle of all the douches and the bros trying to weave my way through. So there was a night back in April. I would usually get off at 12:30, 1. Sometimes if I could afford it, I would take a Lyft, but usually I would just take the train. So I would meander down the sidewalk, weaving through all the people, coming out of the bars and catcalling and trying to grope me and sell me various forms of drugs and get me to go to Scientology and other weird places. So this night, I'd had a really, really shitty night at work. I had to see so many people and I was a scare actor. So my character was this ghost child who died in this haunted daycare. So I'm literally dressed as a 10-year-old girl and I have drunk men trying to grope me and hit on me, and that's also another tangent. But working on the boulevard, you see a lot of the costume characters, and I sort of just I started being very drawn to them because I kind of related to what they were going through. I mean, granted, I'm working inside and getting paid by the hour, and they're working for tips out on the sidewalk. But you make this connection because we're dealing with the same assholes. My favorite though is the Green Power Ranger. I still to this day don't know his name, but we bonded. We would always just pass each other and we have this wave, and I would sometimes take him a soda or something. So this particular night, I get to the train. I am literally exhausted. I've had to fight off 50 guys trying to get there. And I get to the train and I'm I just want to sit here in my seat and just sit here. I don't want to have anyone talk to me and I want to go home. And then I look over and I see him. I see my little Green Ranger friend, and he is just curled up in this fetal position. And he's sound asleep and he just looks so peaceful. And I was God, it must be so exhausting being a superhero for tips, but every time I've seen this guy, he's literally just so much energy, and he's doing his kicks and his whatever Power Rangers do. And I had never actually seen him without his mask, which was interesting too, because he had the mask off, but the whole outfit was on and he is just passed out. And I was I'm always paranoid to sleep on the train, especially as someone who I'm technically non-binary, but I am perceived as female. So I'm like, if I fall asleep on the train, people are gonna try to impregnate me or something. So I'm always trying to stay alert. That, and I have like accidentally fallen asleep and ended up in places that I probably shouldn't have been. And I always got back. But so I'm like watching him, kind of like watching over him, because I'm like, if somebody tries to fuck with the Green Power Ranger, I'm gonna throw down. Like, he's my buddy. We understand what it's like dealing with tourists all day and trying to make tips or trying to make your wage, and people just want to take your photo and post it up for all their like 1,500 followers, but they don't want to give you any money. So he's had a rough day and he's sleeping. So I'm just watching and I'm listening, and I see we approach the next stop. I don't remember, I think it was like Hollywood and Western. And this guy gets on, and he's got like a bag, and he sits across from my Green Ranger friend. And I was like, this guy, he is gonna mess with him. And I'm gonna have to fight. I'm gonna have to fight this guy for the Green Ranger. And so I sit there and I watch, and the guy just starts tapping him, and I'm like, okay, he doesn't seem super aggressive. We'll see how this plays out. And I'm watching, and I'm watching, and then I see the Green Ranger like light up, and his face is just like beaming, and he knows this guy, and I'm like, okay, cool, they arranged to meet. And so I'm watching, and he hands him a bag, and it's like a sandwich or something. And the Green Ranger like reaches in his pocket or whatever and pulls out a joint, and they make an exchange, a sandwich for a joint. And it is like the most beautiful display of humanity I have seen in months. And I was just like, it just like was this profound moment, because I see so much, like I've seen people getting beaten up on the train, or like people trying to stab each other, fighting, and I just see this exchange where like one person had something that someone else needed after like a long, exhausting day. Sometimes you just need a sandwich or a joint, and it's so easy to get distracted about, especially right now with where our country is and where our culture is, like all the division and people fighting against each other, but how we have such basic human needs, and there's so many subtle little ways, like your friend meeting you on the train at like 1 a.m. with a sandwich when you're probably starving. Like, who knows, like I don't know how well the Green Ranger does on a daily basis in tips. It could have been a really slow day. Who knows when he's last eaten? And he bartered this joint for a sandwich, and it just, I almost cried, because I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm sitting here thinking about all this random pointless shit in my life, and really it kind of all comes down to like at the end of the night, a sandwich and a joint and a nap, and how we all need each other and we can all help each other. And as cheesy as it sounds, what if God really is one of us, just a Green Ranger on a bus or a train, just trying to make his way home? And thank you.